Coming up in the news, Equinor officials say they are making progress after that major oil spill back in September. Foreign police officers sharing their Bahamas experience. And a local pastor addressing claims circulating via social media. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Wolf-Farquharson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping the news this evening, officials of Equinor's Statoil terminal in East Grand, Bahama, providing another progress report on the cleanup of the oil spill in that area following Hurricane Dorian. Many environmental groups have called for transparency and for a greater effort to be made to clean up the spill and limit the potential damage in that area. Officials of Equinor took members of the media on a tour of the facility on Friday. Megan Shepard has our top story.
Executives in charge of the cleanup at Equinor giving our ZNS News team an update on the cleanup efforts inside the terminal as well as the surrounding areas. Forward Operating Base Commander Herman Bick says that since they mobilized in mid-September, great progress has been made.
We've recovered all free oil from the terminal and in the surrounding forest. So at this point in time, there's no such thing as free oil around anymore. We are dealing now with tiny patches of remaining oil that we either manually recover with people on site, or that we try to capture with water, especially inside the terminal. We float the oil off the soil into a corner, and that's when we evacuate it for disposal. So at the moment, nearly all of the free oil is recovered, and we're literally into detailing at the moment.
Now, the area directly across from the terminal was badly affected by the spill and has since been completely cleared. Bick says that the plan is to return that site back to normal as much as possible.
The area across the street had the heaviest pollution. The free oil was deposited from the tanks into that area. That was recovered both by liquid recovery as well as solid recovery, basically bulldozers and excavators. We've recovered all that contaminated soil and stored it in lined areas here on the terminal. We've captured the trees that were impacted by the contamination and mulched them. We ground them up to wood chips. And the idea is to, in the time to come, mix the two, make sure we remediate the remaining oil out of that soil, make proper and fertile topsoil out of it, bring it back to where it came from, and replant the area there.
Environmental scientist Andy Graham noting that the cleanup efforts have been effective and that new life can now be seen in the affected areas. He pointed out two areas of land to our news team where one side had already been cleaned, but not the other.
Crews came through, and our focus was really the sticky and heavily oiled vegetation because it is a threat to wildlife, birds and other wildlife. And then also heavy pooled oil and sediments on the ground and the substrate, because those can be persistent and remain for a while. So crews came through, clipped the vegetation, manually clipped the vegetation, manually picked up the oiled sediments and cleaned up the pooled oil. At this area, the other side has not been treated, and there's a very visible difference. You can see that the oiled vegetation is gone, and that there's a lot of green growth, new growth coming up in the forest.
He adds that the oil will naturally degrade over time.
There are natural microbes in the environment that will, over the long term, degrade the oil. Our goal was to get the oil. There's going to be some oil left. The oil is going to remain there, but it's a very thin coating, a very thin layer of oil. That oil will weather. The sun and the wind will harden that oil up so that it becomes less and less of a threat. It will remain there for an extended period of time, but the natural weathering will degrade that oil over time.
Another area of concern for residents is potential harm to the groundwater. Environmental Unit Lead Lars Meyer says that they are in the process of drilling 20 wells for testing.
We are drilling the last wells, and we will start taking samples of them, the first one today, and we will do this during the weekend. and then we will send those water samples to analysis, and then we will wait for the results. First of all, we have a hydrogeologist that is working along with us. We have a consultant called Geosyntec. They will do, based on the water level metering, they will use those data to investigate where the groundwater is flowing, which way it's flowing, and they based on that analysis there and the interpretation and the results coming from the laboratories, we will file a report for the authority, and then we will make the plan for the next stage of the groundwater monitoring.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Megan. Meantime, the Bahamas National Trust says that they are continuing to monitor the cleanup efforts at Equinor, the BNT issuing a statement earlier today. The BNT statement reads, 2 months after Hurricane Dorian impacted the islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama, Equinor, formerly Statoil, continues its efforts in cleaning up the onshore oil spill at its South Riding Point terminal in the Bahamas, which was damaged by Hurricane Dorian. 1.8 million barrels of oil equivalent were being stored at the time the hurricane hit. Equinor has estimated that 119,000 barrels of oil were spilled. BNT Executive Director says in the statement that the Equinor oil spill opens our eyes to the need for an Environmental Protection Act to regulate industry. Freeport is the industrial capital of the Bahamas, home to oil storage facilities, ship repair facilities, a container port, chemical plants, and aggregate mining. These activities have tremendous environmental, social, cultural, and planning impacts. The BNT statement goes on to say that this incident certainly prompts BNT to restate its opposition to the Oban project proposed for East Grand Bahama, serving as a potential window into the future, presenting what could possibly happen to such a facility in the event of another hurricane or accident at that facility. One of the main concerns, according to the BNT and partnering agencies, is that while the oil from the storage tank was blown north onto the land and not south into the sea, the statement says eventually it will make its way expanding into more of the nearby wetlands and deeper into the island's freshwater reservoirs. Wetlands serve as a place where water is filtered before entering the underground water table. The statement says the oil would diminish the quality of the island's groundwater for drinking and freshwater resources, noting that wildlife that depend on wetlands for habitat, for feeding and breeding will also be negatively impacted. Shoshana Rolf-Arkeson, ZNS Network. Meantime, the Jamaican Gleaner is reporting that First Caribbean International Bank has been acquired by the Galinsky Group out of Colombia. This acquisition includes locations in 16 Caribbean countries, including the Barbados headquarters, Antigua, Aruba, Bahamas, Cayman, Curacao, Dominica, San Martin, among others. In this region, the bank notes that it has more than 2,700 employees, 57 full-service branches, 7 international banking and private equity management offices, 11 platinum offices, and 6 loan and mortgage centers in 16 regional markets. Billionaire Jamie Jelinski Bacal built one of the largest banking empires in Latin America through a series of mergers and acquisitions. He is a Colombian banker and a real estate developer, and he currently resides in London. Well, the Royal Bahamas Police Force Northern District saying goodbye to a group of visiting officers. Immediately after Hurricane Dorian, police officers from several Caribbean nations came to Grand Bahama to assist with policing efforts. Our news team caught up with those officers while they were conducting road checks in the Freeport area. In this report, they share what their experience was like over the past 6 weeks. Natalia Hall has more.
Work during the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. They assisted local officers with road checks, search and rescue missions, and much more. Inspector of Police John Charles from Dominica and Sergeant Wingove Headley from Barbados say when they first got the call to come to Grand Bahama, they did not hesitate.
We suffered the same fate in Dominica through Hurricane Maria, and the Bahamian Defense Force was here. So it was an unfortunate return favor, but we were happy to come here and assist in the security aspect of it.
I believe if you reverse
the situation. You know, the Bahamian people would have assisted us. So it's only imperative that as Caribbean countries, one nation, we come together and help each other.
Sergeant Jules Morgan from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Sergeant Mike Modeste from Grenada say it's important for Caribbean nations to support one another during difficult times.
When I first got the call, my Deputy Commissioner of Police called me and told me I'll be leading a 5-man team to the Bahamas. And I was very delighted to do so. It's been my second stint for the year doing overseas duties. Our country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is part of the Regional Security Services, and we encompasses 7 nations in the Eastern Caribbean. So our duties mainly, when we are being called upon, is to go and assist other countries. And we normally do that on a regular basis. For us, coming here to the Bahamas, it's a part of what we do because almost every country in the Caribbean get hit by a hurricane on a regular basis.
In 2004, we got hit by a major hurricane in Grenada, and we suffered the same fate, and a lot of other Caribbean islands came to our rescue. They came to our aid. So when we get a call to respond through the RSS, there was no hesitation to do so.
Officer in charge of Rapid Response, Superintendent Kenwood Taylor says the Royal Bahamas Police Force is grateful for the assistance.
As you know, from the 7th to this day, we were in recovery mode. We were actually out and about with these fine officers, conducting searches, conducting rescues. We were also dealing with persons who were responsible for looting. While the electricity was out, we have had a lot of persons out there committing offenses, drug offenses, firearm offenses, and we were able to bring 5 of them to justice. It's been a remarkable experience, and we look forward to doing it not too very soon. But if we have to do it again, we would like to have them along with us also.
Now all of the officers are set to leave Grand Bahama sometime this week. It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Now, those officers who are a part of CARICOM's Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, they also paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis today at the office of the Prime Minister at the Cecil Wallace Whitfield Center in Cable Beach. The Prime Minister telling those officers that the people of Abaco and Grand Bahama extend sincere thanks and gratitude to them for their service rendered during the rebuilding of the nation in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Switching gears now, the Rotary Clubs of Grand Bahama organizing several convoys into East Grand Bahama, distributing much-needed building materials to residents who help rebuild homes in those devastated East End settlements. Last month, the 5 Rotary Clubs delivered 2 40-foot trailers in Pelican Point, and on Friday past, Rotarians delivered building supplies and materials to residents at St. Cleveland Baptist Church in Freetown. Our Jamila Mizik was there.
Rotary Club 6990 partnering with Equinor to donate roofing supplies to residents in the East. Rotary GB Area Governor Lisbeth Knowles says the organization felt it necessary to start donating building materials.
Initially we said we would only do sheetrock, but when we came out and saw how it is here in East End, we can see sheetrock will not be a big help. They really need help with the roof too. So we will dry everybody and make sure that they get the roof fixed. And after that we will be doing the mold remediation. And after that, they'll get the sheetrocks.
Pastor of St. Cleveland Baptist Church in Freetown, Preston Cooper Jr., says since Hurricane Dorian, Rotary has been assisting them in many ways, and they're eternally grateful.
I can only say thank you. And because we've been getting a whole lot of water and food and all that, but we now to the stage where we need building materials. People can get back into their homes and get out of Freeport, get out of shelters, but get back into their homes. And the provision of these materials from partners like Rotary, like Equinor and others, this can only speed up the process.
He says they estimate approximately 200 homes to be repaired and a minimum of 10 homes for demolition.
We are categorizing that process and we're trying our best to speed up that process and addressing those homes that need to be demolished and those homes that need to be repaired. And with those homes to be repaired, there are preconditions in terms of mold treatment, etc. And then these materials will be distributed. We already have application forms out to members of the church and the community at large within this particular vineyard, who they can follow their application and find out their materials need, and to the best of our ability we will address those needs.
Now present for the donation was Member of Parliament for the area, the Honorable K. Peter Turnquest, who says the government is thankful to Rotary and other NGOs for assisting because they cannot do it alone, adding that the donations will make a tangible difference in the lives of residents, but he's assuring that residents in Freeport are not forgotten.
We will certainly get to those areas as quickly as possible, particularly those who have sheetrock needs and the roofing material needs. We will get to those as quickly as possible. The government itself is putting the final design on the assistance that it will give in terms of direct assistance, starting again with those who have minor to medium type damages, and then we'll work out how we deal with the more extensive collapses that have occurred. Because again, we want to get the housing stock back as quickly as possible, as it will bring people back to some sense of normalcy, get business and commerce going again, and get our community up and going.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Awesome job, Rotarians. Stay with us. There's more news on the other side of the break.